What's happening? Nick Olson, Chupacabra Offroad, and today we're talking about the new Kawasaki TRX 1000. First off, the number one question everyone wants to ask is how much horsepower does it have? Well, it's a naturally aspirated vehicle with a CVT transmission, and according to the CARB document, which was found online, it's going to put out around 112 horsepower. I know a lot of us in the Southwest are really hoping for something like a turbo model, but you know, not really overly surprised either. It makes sense business-wise to launch with a naturally aspirated model. This model is offered in two colors, a green and a white, and the MSRP is $20,500. As that relates, it's a little bit more expensive than XP1000 and pretty comparably priced to a base model Razor Turbo or a CanAm X3 XDSR model, 172 horsepower turbo, which is $500 more. And it's in the same ballpark as the Honda Talon 1000R. So speaking of the Honda Talon 1000R, one thing I really love about this are the dimensions and the specs. They didn't choose to go with the standard 64 inches wide. This is stretched out, it's 68 inches wide, and wheelbase is almost 99 inches long. So I love the fact that we're going a little bit longer. It now starts to feel like most of the two-seat models on the market are within 95 to 102 inches, give or take. So love that. I think that just adds to stability. It adds to adding some leg room and a little bit roomier rear bed just for more accessories. Kawasaki claims this will hold up to 350 pounds in the bed and easily hold a 32-inch tire. Speaking of tires, I think the best statistic I've seen, I'm really excited that the Kawasaki comes with stock some 31-inch Maxxis Carnivore tires, which is a real legit tire for the Southwest on a 15-inch beadlock wheel. So I love the fact that the side-by-side is going to come stock, clutched, all those type of things, and the chassis, suspension, everything set up to handle this bigger, heavier tire, which is about 35-pound stock. So love to see that. I think if you watch my review of the Honda Talon after driving it, and as well as the specs, it was a bummer that they spec'd a little 28-inch tire, which isn't a real tire for real off-roading conditions in the Southwest or for most off-roading across the country for that matter. So 2 thumbs up to Kawasaki for doing that. Styling wise, I really like how it turned out. I think it's a really good looking unit. I like the fact that it does come with a full door. I think for an OEM cage, it's stylish. Hopefully it ends up being robust and strong enough to keep everyone in the safe. But extra excited to see what the aftermarket's going to do once we put a new cage on that thing and maybe some 32 or even 33-inch tires. I think it's going to look really good. Some other specifications I really like are the fact that not only are we 69 inches wide, but you've got 19 inches of travel in the front and 21 inches of travel in the rear. So like the Honda Talon 1000R, they went wider than the status quo. You've got a little bit more suspension travel. And with that, I think you're going to have a much more stable ride than a 64-inch wide with a shorter wheelbase like the Razor 2-seat XP1000. And that's going to lead to, I think, a lot of people feeling like, hey, this is a really compliant ride. It's wide and it's stable, and I don't need to invest in a long travel kit, or I'm not going to consider that really for the long term. Definitely not as good as 72 inches wide, but pretty close, and I think you can definitely feel that on the trail in most situations when you're going fast, and it's just going to be better basically in all conditions. And it doesn't seem to really be deterring people who ride in tighter areas. They're still willing to want something that's a little bit wider, of course, bigger tires, more room, and just an overall better riding experience. So the KRX 1000 comes with Fox 2.5-inch podium shocks. They look similar again to the Talon 1000R with a lot of shock stroke. I haven't seen the official dimension, but 2.5 front and rear, of course, dual rate coils and adjustable crossover rings, which is nice. I'm sure with a little bit of spring and valving tuning, you can probably get a really good ride out of those things right out of the box. And the rear suspension seems to have 3 radius rods and a trailing arm, so they're calling it a 4-link setup, but it looks really similar to a Polaris setup with 1 additional radius rod towards in front of the rear axle. So I think not too overly complex. It looks like it's gonna be pretty robust. The trailing arms look pretty beefy. So hopefully that ends up being a really reliable setup. And of course, Kawasaki claims that they added the extra link just to keep the rear geometry as good as it can be for stability and handling. So the interior seems to be pretty simple. The seats look pretty simplistic, not too many bells and whistles, but they did include a belt temperature gauge, which is a nice little added feature. The four-wheel drive system on paper also sounds like it's gonna work really well. So as long as all four wheels are locked up, I think it's gonna be a good all-around used vehicle. Speaking of all around, I like how they shot the video in Utah. I mean, you know us, if you follow our channel, we ride all over the place. We love Utah, Arizona. We've got a lot of different conditions, and primarily this channel is based on Southwest enthusiasts, but you know, we like machines and want to recommend machines and products that work well in a lot of different conditions. I think if you're talking naturally aspirated based on the specifications, based on what it comes with, I'd have to say this would probably be my top choice. The reason why I think it's better than a Razor 1000 is it's got a longer wheelbase, it's wider, it comes with bigger, heavier, more robust tires. Another thing too, I think even though Kawasaki hasn't produced a sport side-by-side, I'm definitely more inclined to say that Kawasaki is gonna have a higher quality fit and finish and probably more reliability than a Polaris and potentially a CanAm. So we'll see how it plays out. It's gonna take 6 to 8 months of customers in the real world using their units, bashing on them to see how they really hold up. But like the Honda Talon's proven to hold up quite well for what it is, I think we have a higher expectation level for these Japanese OEMs. So as it relates to the comparison between the Honda Talon, again, I like the fact that this has bigger, more robust tires. It does come with full doors. They're priced pretty comparably. The shifting on the Honda Talon is cool, but I wouldn't make a purchase just for that reason alone. So I would look at the Kawasaki or probably the Tracker, Arctic Cat, whatever you want to call it, because watching that thing, I think that really screams. It's got the most horsepower of a stock naturally aspirated side-by-side. But I would probably assume that you're gonna have a higher fit and finish and quality spec on the Kawasaki. So as I think about if I was going to buy a non-turbo side-by-side, I would definitely put Kawasaki at the top of the pile. So comment below what your thoughts are if you consider the Kawasaki TRX 1000. It's exciting to have another big manufacturer in the game. Looks like they've really done their homework. There's a lot of skid plates protecting it, bigger tires, really thoughtful little elements like the belt temp gauge, great styling, and you can tell they've been watching the market closely. So excited to have another strong competitor, another OEM mixing it up, another choice for us customers. We all win. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, and we've got a lot more content coming your way.